So, welcome everyone, and thank you for waiting a little bit for us. So we are now joined in by Charbel and Habib.
Hello?
Was it? If I'm not mistaken, I'm
Hello?
sorry. I think we can hear it. Yeah, and they're going to present it. They're going to talk a little bit about their work and what they're doing at Genius Software. Can you guys?
Yes.
Can you guys speak at least? So I am trying to more or less adjust the volumes.
Yep, here's my voice. This is Charbel.
Okay. Seems to be okay. What about Habib?
Habib, are you with us?
Okay, we might have.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, so we are hearing you all the time. So if you don't hear us anymore, just wait a little bit because it might be the internet on your side, but we can always hear you. So
Okay, I can mute myself. And you guys. Then when we have questions, I'll unmute myself and then we'll talk. Okay.
okay, great.
Okay.
Okay, you can start now.
So thank you guys for hosting us in this beautiful hackathon. I woke up actually quite early today and had the chance to see some of the presentations. I was really impressed. And Habib, I'm the CEO of Genius Software. My name is Charbel Achkar. Habib is with me here, Chief Technology Officer, CTO of Genius Software. And we're going to present what our company is all about today, some of the problems that we are trying to solve. And then later on, Habib is going to highlight the prototype and what we need in terms of human resources. We are actively looking for an expert in point cloud computation. As we were doing the research, we stumbled into PCL, and we are here now and have the pleasure to meet you and talk with you all. So my background is chemical engineering. I have about 20 years consulted with large enterprise companies, mainly pharmaceutical and biotechnology companies. And over the years of consulting, I've seen over 12 or more clients like Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, GlaxoSmithKline, all these large pharmaceutical companies. They struggle with problems that are still there, even after 20 years. And the reason is because there is nothing disruptive that is taking place to change these things. And unfortunately, also, I have to say that, money is always in the way of advancements of technology sometimes, or adoption of technology, for obvious reasons, for interests of companies. So the big problem statement is the fact that over the 30, 40 years, as computers advanced and softwares advanced, companies like enterprises started purchasing these pieces of software. So let's say vendor XYZ works on SAP. Vendor ABC works on a LIMS system for laboratory operations. But and that's how it evolved, right? So each one has their own software. It tries to solve a problem, but it really does not solve the whole problem of a company. So the company's IT main headache and problem is, I have all these pieces of software. They don't integrate well with each other. I have to hire a consulting company to integrate them, but it doesn't really work. They each produce data on their own, and I need all the data together to make sense of it and provide intelligence, business intelligence for my company as a CEO, as a manager, executive, so I can feed back into improving the operations of the company or the product development, etc. These are real problems, guys, that are still unsolved in 2016. And later last year, or so, I finished my last project, and I said to myself, I need to do something about this because it's not improving, it's not changing, and the same problems and headaches are there. And meanwhile, these companies are spending millions, if not billions, in this infrastructure that doesn't return much value to them. So that's where sort of everything started, and I started imagining, okay, why don't we have natural interfaces to interact with the physical around us? So that's where augmented reality is a big part of our offering. But also another big part of the offering is the IoT. So we're big on IoT devices that uses advanced imaging technology and 3D point cloud computation in order to analyze the physical around us as it's moving. And so these are the technologies that we are going or planning to use. And the integration of these technologies, we believe, between IoT devices that are talking to each other and that are talking to augmented reality devices, we can provide a platform that is intuitive to companies, that makes sense for them and allows them to generate healthy, high integrity data across their value chain, and at the same time analyze then that clean data to make sense. So the potential of the market is in the billions, but today I'm just going to talk about one particular industry, which is the pharmaceutical industry, and describe to you these 5 chains that make the value chain of a pharmaceutical company. So on the left here, initially you start with the discovery phase. So somebody in the lab, a chemist, etc., is working with molecules and chemistry and biologics to try to discover a molecule or an active ingredient that would actually solve a disease, right? Cure a disease. So in that phase, they do a lot of. There's a lot of potential for imaging and applications because there's a lot of changes going on very fast because they have to try many millions of molecules together in a very fast manner in order to see which one would work. Once they have something that's reasonably stable that can actually in the glassware kill the disease, the virus or whatever, they file what is called an IND with the FDA. So you have the complexity of regulatory here in the US as well as in Europe, which is the Food and Drug Administration, which requires a lot of stringent regulatory and safety requirements because we're making pharmaceuticals or food. So at this stage, this we call the IND, investigation new drugs, that allows them to move to the next step where they can do more formulation and clinical trials. I'm sure you're all familiar with phase 1, 2, 3 clinical trials where companies, first test on animals to see is the drug toxic, at what levels of the drug, how many milligrams or grams will kill this rat or mouse in the lab, so that they can move to phase 2 where they can actually test with humans, and phase 3, etc. Once all these phases, and this could take years, so there's opportunity here to reduce this time that it takes to do these clinical trials so that they can move forward, companies can move forward with their drug faster using these technologies that you guys are working on. For instance, with clinical trials, the data is very complex because there might be a formulation that is being tested on 1,000 patients today at different sites in the world that's going to yield some results. But then somebody is also working on another formulation, right? Or that previous formulation is going to feed some data back to the scientists so that they can improve it and run another clinical trial. and so forth. And one of the major requirements of the FDA is to track all the medication and formulations that were used at any given time of the clinical trial. So tracking means, in this case, from the point where the drug is being manufactured as tablets and then bottled in a bottle and then into a conveyor belt and then into a truck for shipment to the clinical site, and then inside the clinical site, where is the container, what is it? So we have to trace and track the quantity and the quality and the material that is traversing all these steps in order to make it to the clinical site and know exactly which patient it was given to. So that's an application that we are now focusing on at Genius Software. Similarly, once the clinical trials are over, you file an NDA, which allows you to commercialize the product, and then you have supply chain headaches involved in this phase as well, to send it to different pharmacies around the world, all the way from manufacturing to pharmacy. We want to be able to track in real time the manufacturing of a batch of drugs and follow that and trace that all the way through to the pharmacy, because the FDA requires that, and because for business operations reasons, right? It benefits the business to know how much was made for a particular drug, which market is actually consuming a particular drug. So it gives us predictive information in advance as to how much we need to manufacture. So it solves FDA compliance issues, it solves business operations and logistics issues, to say the least. There's more I can talk about this, but in the interest of time, I want to give the rest of the time to Habib to talk about what we're trying to do in the prototype to solve this supply chain problem and traceability problem. And we'd be happy to make this presentation available later on for you to look at and get back to us with any questions. But essentially, there's a lot of benefits highlighted on this slide here that can be solved. And companies have this problem still unsolved. You would think that they would know how much they made, where things are going and everything, but that's not the case. I'll give you another complexity. The FDA right now, I talked to an FDA agent 3 weeks ago, and he said, if you guys can develop something like this, we would really jump on it, because there's medication that goes out in the black market, or actually they call it the gray market, through legal distributors, and the FDA does not know about it, and then it gets in the hands of the wrong people, especially if it's drug-related, pain medication, what have you, and they have no visibility of it. So implementing a solution, an imaging solution, and to track the drug material from manufacturing all the way down really helps the FDA in this case. So there's a lot of use cases. Okay, this guy has no hair on his head anymore. He's having a lot of headache trying to analyze all the data from his company. We're trying to solve this, as I said earlier. So two main things to keep in mind. By using imaging technology, we are alleviating the pain of users to go and enter information into a software system today to tell you what they did, because we're doing this in real time. So they don't have to worry about telling the computer that they made these many containers, or these containers are here, or with this person, or in this lab, etc. We should be able to use imaging technology to track these things real time, and therefore provide real-time data all the time and high-integrity data, because if a human has to enter data may be compromised or missing. So that's one thing. And the other thing is, on the other tail end of it, be able to analyze the data that we have to feed back intelligence to the company. Okay, with this, I will pass it on to Habib. Habib, are you with us?
Yes. Can you guys hear me? Or can you hear me, Charbel?
I can hear you.
All right. So thank you, Charbel. And with a few minutes remaining, I will just jump right into the setup that we are planning or that we are setting up. And then I will just denote or underline the key features or the key elements that we really want in the setup that would be different from other setups, so that to achieve what Charbel described about tracking. So one of the key elements is really a real time. So what you're looking at here is a very schematic of what we want to do. So you have a table. This table, you can think of it as a conveyor belt on which these medicine and the bottles are kind of moving, and they can be moving at a rate of maybe 1 meter a second. And so we want to really build a 3D model. We want it to be generic because there are other applications also that we've been presented with, like do animations and things for Disney and things like this. So we want it to be really generic. But the key feature that I want to stress on is what I say in the first line here. Purpose is to build a 3D scene in real time. And so what I mean by real time here is that every 1/30th of a second, we need to build that 3D model of whatever is on that table. And I place on that table, objects that are of comparable size. So an apple, a cup, a plate, whatever. And so you notice on the ring above the table, I placed here eight sensors or 8 cameras. And now, of course, this is very abstract and very describing high level what we want to do. The reason we have several cameras instead of, for example, I think you guys showed in one of your presentation, one Kinect, and then you walk with that Kinect and you build whatever the Kinect is looking at. And of course, Microsoft has programs that do these. The only thing that really lacks here is the real time of the whole scene. So when you put N cameras, in this case I put 8, but in the real case we'll have maybe hundreds of IoT cameras. As we are creating our own camera, also to miniaturize a camera. So we're creating a camera in our company that doesn't use a lens, that is wide field of view, and that can be really miniaturized. So in the zoom on with the camera, you can see here, I'm thinking about stereo cameras. We have 2 cameras. There is a projector and a board that we can create, or we are creating, that kind of syncs the projector with the refresh rate of the cameras, and then syncs it with all the cameras. Otherwise, we would be putting Kinects all over the place, maybe for a prototype or the real sense. And this is where I want to pick your brains on interference, and we can leave these questions to the end. But my experience is that if you put several real sense sensors or several Kinects just for a prototype, these guys are shining infrared light, and they are going to interfere. And so we have to design something or solve the interference problem. But the key point from this picture here is that we have several sensors. Each sensor is really viewing one part of the scene or one view. And so we will need as many views as we need to really register all these cloud of points. So each sensor gets a cloud of point. That's the acquisition phase. And then we go into the registration phase where we have a bunch of 3D points. And we have to do this in real time. So each board will have either a Wi-Fi that that will transmit the data in real time to a server, to a cloud of servers on premise, to a cloud of servers on the cloud, to GPUs, to etc. I mean, we have to really find a solution where we can bring all these cameras together and then have them kind of sync between each other so that we get this thing in real time. So in the next slide, I kind of go through rapidly the phases of reconstruction. So and the skills that we would need or we would be looking for. I myself, I did my PhD in stereo reconstruction. My thesis was on uh, stereo imaging, reconstructing hand gesture, recognizing hand gesture based on stereo images. But if you can go back to the previous slide, two slides, the one where, so here you can see some of the things that we would need in terms of skills. So we need someone who would know maybe about active passive stereo, about image processing, computer vision, all these cameras that are on the table, I mean, above the table, they need to be calibrated. So we need someone who would know about camera calibration, how to get the intrinsic parameters of the camera, the extrinsic parameters, orientation, rotational matrix, all these things, so that at 30th of a second, each camera is going to really know where all the other cameras are, and then registration in this case becomes trivial, right? And then after registration, we need to segment the scene, be able to know the objects apart. So this plate is different from this other plate, different from whatever. And then create a mesh creation. So this is for visualization, and then also doing recognition and ultimately tracking. So we need to track, this bottle came from this conveyor belt into that box. The box went into the truck went into the pharmacy, and like that. So these small IoT devices, which we are miniaturizing, creating, something that is really affordable. Now if you want to buy a 360 degrees camera, it costs exactly $499. And so we really need something that captures the environment and then can be miniaturized, can send its signal and all the data of its views to a cloud on-premise, and then do all these phases from data acquisition to registration to segmentation to creation of a mesh to recognition to tracking. So this kind of sums up a little bit the technical project we are doing, how we are approaching it, and at this point we are open to questions and ideas.
And before that, I just want to mention, so Habib's background is you guys have seen he's an expert in computer vision, and so you guys can talk the language between you better than between you and me. My background is as well technical and software engineering, but I'm more providing the subject matter expertise from the 20 years of consulting with these companies and solving some of the complex problems that these companies still suffer from. And they've all indicated to me, my clients have indicated that if we provide such a solution, they will be ready to invest and to fund such a thing. So with that, last thing I want to say is, aside from the technical aspects, we're looking for someone that wants to eventually move to the Bay Area. And probably, as you know, the Bay Area has all the technology and all these companies here. So it's a thriving place for both of us, for me and Habib right now. And it's just the best place to be, one of the best places to be, these days. So initially, it would be a step-by-step basis. So initially, I would envision this person to come here, and we provide logistics. We provide lodging and expenses, and as well as salary to work with us on developing the prototype. And then the next phase would be, to set a time where this person would move to the States, and then we can sponsor their green card to work with us and stay in the U.S. We're both, by the way, not from the U.S. either, so we know how difficult it is to make a decision like this. But trust me, it's for work reasons, the U.S. is still like one of the best places to be in, especially. And socially speaking, the Bay Area is beautiful, has a lot of good weather and good culture, similar to Europe. Probably the most closest to Europe is San Francisco, to be honest. So with this, we open it up to questions, and thank you for listening to us. Yeah. Sure.
Okay, we're back on the stream. So, questions from anyone to our speakers?
What is exactly your problem with the multi-camera calibration?
So, questions comes from Nizar, and he asks, "What is exactly your problem with the multi-camera calibration?"
So there is no problem per se. We just need someone who knows about camera calibration, who can really, do the time method or whatever method he needs to calibrate cameras. That is if we really go into wanting to do stereo matching to do the cloud acquisition or the points acquisition. So it's not really the novelty wouldn't be in the camera calibration, but it is a necessary step that we have to go to spare ourselves doing cloud registration based on least square or some optimization. If we know where the cameras are, what the cameras parameters are, then the registration of the several views into one view becomes really instantaneous. It's just a rotational matrix and the translation vector that takes all 3D points into one reference frame. And so this is one step in the way, a skill needed. But the real problem is, of course, can we do this, for example, trying to solve the matching problem of passive stereo? That would be really a $1 billion questions. We don't think we're gonna, maybe we will solve it, but otherwise, how can we use active stereo using projector? How can we sync them to each other? How can we create this board? So it's really a wide range of unanswered questions that we will have to dig into, put our heads together to solve it. But the goal is one. The goal, we want in real time to create a 3D cloud of point of a scene, and we're open to any suggestion and any idea other than the one that I thrown out there, which is active or passive stereo. So that's a long answer to a very short question.
Anyone else? Can I provide feedback on it? Well, we don't have more questions from the audience, so we need to eventually finish this in 1 minute.
Yeah.
Any last questions from you guys? We will pass your presentation, and we will keep. The video will be uploaded as we've discussed, so people can. Yeah. I'll sort this out. But any quick last question? Oh, Alex has one.
So you actually mentioned that you can have up to hundreds of cameras. So what sort of scenes are you targeting with this algorithm? Because you jumped from sort of a table with cups and apples, and then you mentioned hundreds of cameras and medicine, and there are a lot of broken links in there.
Okay, so the question was, I'm not sure if you heard, but question was, you proposed that you showed up a scenario where you have 8 cameras and a table, and eventually you mentioned things like scaling up to 100, and the question is going here behind is, what is it? There are some missing links in this reasoning. Why would you want to do this? And
why medicine?
Yes.
And why many cameras? To be honest.
Yeah.
And why what?
Why so many cameras? Why 100?
Okay. So first, yes, why 8 and then 100? Well, 8 is simply because it is a prototype, and so for a prototype, we don't have to go full scale. It's not a product; it's a proof of concept. That's what the purpose of the prototype is. And of course, the idea of N cameras is twofold. One is to be able to do real time. We don't have, we can't just take one camera and then walk it around the scene. We have to have enough cameras to to capture it in real time from all views in parallel at the same time. So as camera 1 from the north is taking the north view, the one in the south, the west, the east are taking the same views at the same time. Now, the reason for 100 cameras, or the reason I threw this out, is because of quality control. So we need to, at the end of the day, also do quality control. We have to see if the bottle is broken, if there is a hole somewhere. And so the question of how many cameras will have to do with precision. We don't want to put, you know, 1 million cameras because it is high in cost. And we don't want to put only 8 cameras because the precision is really poor. And so it's a compromise. It's an optimization problem. We have to find, you know, where is this parabola maximum, where we can do a trade-off between number of cameras, cost, and precision of our detection. And so this is really the rough answer to that. And you know, since we're out of time, you know, we'd be very interested in keeping in touch with you guys to also have feedback on the question of interference. If you guys have any insights about this or how.
Yes.
You have their emails. You have their
Just
emails.
you know, the email is just one S here in the middle, not 2 S's, so it's Genius Software 1S. If you'd like to email me, and then we can, you know, provide more information. We are willing and we are open to work on enhancing current hardware technology in the market so that we can remove interference, either in the passive sense or also in the active sense. We have some ideas, and we are working on this invention as well, because we want to make this work. So it's all integrated, the hardware and the software as well. So this sounds really exciting for any one of you guys. And when you want to move to the US and work with some smart people to solve billion-dollar problems, we're ready to. We're here to ready to hear from you and arrange something. Thank you very much, Sergio, and thanks for the team.
Thanks a lot, Charbel. Thanks a lot, Habib. I'm not sure if you're still with us.